Hi, I'm Mark, and today I want to talk about a topic where Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and opposition leader Keir Starmer agree. Scary, isn't it? Well, here in Germany, the new self determination law of the so called traffic light coalition of Social Democrats, Greens, and the Liberals with more rights for trans people is to come into force before the end of this year. Meanwhile, Britain is moving in the opposite direction. The government wants to base its definition of gender on biology. But it is rare for British Tory Prime Minister Rishi Sunak and Labour leader Keir Starmer to see eye to eye. It was therefore all the more surprising that the two of them closed ranks last week on an issue that the parties usually fervently argue about: the rights of women and trans people. Last Wednesday, Sunak said he was considering an amendment to the Equality Act that would define gender in purely biological terms. The 2010 law provides a legal framework to protect against discrimination and promote equal opportunities. This should create legal clarity in various areas, such as access to gender specific spaces and sporting events, said the head of the British Equality and Human Rights Commission, Kishore Faulkner. In practice, revising the law would mean that a trans woman would be barred from entering a woman's locker room because her biological sex, the one assigned at birth, is male. So far, the exclusion from that can only be granted under certain conditions. In doing so, Great Britain is going in the opposite direction to that which the Traffic Light Coalition in Germany would like to take. Before the end of this year, the so-called Transsexual Act is to be replaced by the self-determination law here, agreed by the traffic light government in their coalition agreement. So far in Germany, it has been necessary to submit two psychiatric reports to the district court in order to change the first name and gender entry in the civil status register. According to the new law, this would be possible with a self-disclosure at the registry office. Critics in Germany and the UK complained that men could take advantage of the simplification of gender registration regulations to gain access to rooms reserved for women. LGBTI organizations criticize this. A change in the gender entry cannot change the current situation, argues the Lesbian and Gay Association here in Germany. There are currently no ID checks in front of toilets or changing rooms, nor will they be in the future, they say. The British organization Stonewall warned that changing the law to define gender as biological risks a new chapter in a produced culture war that women will get little benefits from. Proponents see the UK government's proposed change as a success in terms of protecting women, and so does Sunak. Women's rights must be protected, the Prime Minister said. Basically, I believe that biological sex is important in this regard. And Labour leader Starmer has no problem with the proposed change in the law, as a spokesman said. With the consideration of a change in the law to restrict the rights of trans people, Tory leader Sunak is guided by his party's programme. Unlike Labour leader Keir Starmer, he evaded a specific statement on gender issues for a long time in order to avoid the resentment of young voters and his left wing within the party. In recent weeks, however, the party leader has made a change of direction. 99.9% of women don't have a penis, he said last week when asked about the definition of a woman. According to the party leader, the rights of trans people should not override those of women. And there's also calculation behind this. Local elections are due in May, and next year, in January 2025 at the latest, the House of Commons elections will follow, and the courting for votes begins now. A senior Labour MP told Sky News that the party fears the Conservatives could use Starmer's Mandarin course to their advantage. Although the Tories have lost approval in recent months due to the scandals surrounding ex-Prime Minister Boris Johnson and Liz Truss' chaos premiere, Sunak was recently able to catch up in the polls thanks to an internationally acclaimed EU Northern Ireland agreement, the Windsor Framework. How emotional the debate about trans rights is was recently shown in Scotland. In December, the then First Minister Nicola Sturgeon of the Scottish National Party SNP passed a law that would allow trans people to change their gender without submitting a psychiatric report, similar to the reforms planned here in Germany. The minimum age for this should also be lowered from 18 to 16 years. A government crisis erupted over the previously highly controversial law, and critics, including those from the SNP's own ranks, demonstrated. Ultimately, Westminster intervened with a veto because it felt British equality rules were in jeopardy, and Sturgeon resigned a few weeks later. And Starmer drew his own conclusions. The lesson we can learn from Scotland is that if we can't take the public with us on our path to reform, we are probably not on the right track, he said in late March. There must be a collective restart in Scotland, he said. But let's talk about Scotland here for a second. In the dispute over the law, which London has vetoed, Scottish Minister Shirley Ann Somerville announced on Wednesday that she intends to take legal action, and this is likely to further increase tensions between Edinburgh and London. I mentioned this in another video, but I want to go there in this context here. Specifically, it's about the law to strengthen the rights of trans people, which has been passed by the Scottish Parliament and has been causing heated discussions in Scotland and beyond for months. It is planned, among other things, as I said, that the obligation for a medical report as a prerequisite for a change in the gender entry will no longer apply. And I already mentioned the new minimum gender age for that from 18 to 16. And London is blocking this law on the grounds that it violates UK equality rules. And the relationship between the British central government and the Scottish government has been tense for years because the SNP wants to separate Scotland from the United Kingdom as an independent state and bring it back into the European Union. However, London is refusing to hold another referendum, pointing out that in a referendum in 2014, the majority of Scots decided against independence. However, the vote at the time took place before the Brexit referendum and the subsequent exit from the EU, so that is a completely different topic. And despite that we are on the trans people topic here, I always have to say, of course, it is a completely different situation than in 2014. If they want a second referendum now, they should get it and see what's coming out, because in 2014, the majority voted to stay in the UK, to stay in the EU. And after that, the UK decided to leave the EU and left the EU. So the situation has changed. Just had to say this. But the transgender law that was passed in Scotland and vetoed by London is indeed very similar to that what the current government here in Germany wants to pass and bring, or not only to pass, but to bring into action this year. And I'm not on the side on many people that are having some very weird discussions. Nobody will go there daily to change their sex just to enter some women's bathrooms. But making it that easy will, from my point of view, make the situation of these people quite, unimportant. And that's a point of view I never heard in any of the discussions. The personality of a person, the identity of a person is something really important. And that is nothing to just be quite lax about. It is very important for the people that are living in this situation, that they are taken seriously, yes, that they are not treated unfairly, and that they are not harassed or whatever. But it must be also taken very seriously that it is an important step. It's not only about the gender entry. In the end, many of these people affected that are living in the wrong body, as they feel, are having a complete sex change also surgically. And we already know of cases where people deeply regret this. So from my point of view, it is important to take their feelings into account. And I know a lot of trans people, also even one from the Bundestag, that says it must be made very easy for us to go our way. But on the other hand, I still believe that on the whole path, the that the people being accompanied by psychiatrists and doctors and something like this would be something very important for their own sake. I'm not in this situation, so I cannot completely feel into this situation. But knowing some cases where people regret the transformation, from that I have to take that the people need all the help they can get on their path. Of course, there are some hurdles that are completely unnecessary, and that's the ones you have to talk about, and that's where you might have to change laws about. But what the current German government is planning is going in the wrong direction from my point of view as well. And so what the Scottish government did was the wrong direction as well. There must be something between the UK government and the German government that, from my point of view, would be the right path. It's a very difficult topic, and what must not happen at all here is that people use the topic for aggression against trans people, for spilling hate against trans people, all discrimination, all online hate, and whatever is something we must never agree with and we must never bow to. But we have to look at this from a point of view how to help people, and just giving them everything they want, and I only mean some very loud people what they want, is not always the right move. You have to have a very scientific approach, a psychological approach, and much more. So it's a very difficult topic, but it's not a topic for attacking people, as a lot did whenever I mentioned this topic here on my channel or another channel. There were some idiots in the comments who attacked trans people. I won't have it here, that's why you can't read those comments. But that is just people who probably are intolerant to everything that is not of their own little world, which probably is kind of a crap world. Because people attacking others, that always have to attack others, are usually not very satisfied with their own situation. And they always blame others for the situation they are in, and they probably, in the most cases, got themselves in. So we will see how this will continue, and I will keep informing you, even if I know whenever I bring up this topic, there's not that many views as though I'm talking about Brexit, but they are important topics, even if too few people are interested. But they remain important, and I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.